The small town was quiet that evening. The streets were empty, the shops were closed, and the cold wind carried the smell of rain. Inside a narrow house at the edge of town, a man named Daniel sat alone at his kitchen table. The light above him flickered, and the only sound was the steady ticking of the clock on the wall. Daniel had lived alone for many years. His house was big enough for a family, but now it was just him. He was tired of cooking for himself, tired of eating the same dry meals every day. So, 1 week ago, he had posted a simple job ad online. The words were short. Looking for a cook. Room and meals included. Contact me. He had not expected much. Who would answer such an ad in this forgotten little town? Still, Daniel checked his phone every morning and every night, waiting for a reply. Nothing came. Until tonight. Daniel leaned back in his chair, staring at the screen of his old phone. No messages, no calls. He sighed. Maybe it was a bad idea. Maybe nobody cared. He stood up, stretched his arms, and turned off the kitchen light. Just then there was a sound. Knock. Knock. The knock echoed through the house. Daniel froze. He looked at the clock, almost midnight. Who could it be at this hour? The knocking came again, louder this time. Knock. 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 He slowly walked to the front door. His heart beat faster. The street outside was usually silent, at night. No visitors, no neighbors dropping by. Carefully, Daniel reached for the handle and opened the door. At first, he thought his eyes were playing tricks. A woman stood there, but she was not like any woman he had ever seen. Her skin shimmered faint silver under the dim porch light. Her eyes were wide, glowing faint blue. She wore a long, dark cloak that looked torn at the edges, and in her arms, she carried a small baby wrapped in strange cloth. The baby's eyes glowed too, faint but clear, like tiny stars. Daniel's mouth went dry. He wanted to speak, but no words came. The woman tilted her head, studying him. Then she said in broken English, "You need cook?" Daniel blinked. He almost laughed, thinking this was some dream, but the cold wind on his face told him it was real. "Yes," he managed to whisper. "I posted the ad. But who are you?" The woman stepped closer. Her movements were calm but careful, as if she expected danger at any moment. The baby in her arms let out a soft cry, and the sound was not like any cry Daniel had ever heard. It was almost musical, echoing in his chest. "I am cook," she said again, her words slow and heavy. "We need place. Safe place." She looked down at her baby and then back at Daniel. "You give home. I give food." Daniel's hands trembled on the doorframe. He looked past her, scanning the street. Empty, silent. But something felt wrong. The air seemed heavier. Shadows near the trees across the road shifted as if something or someone was watching. He swallowed hard. "Safe place?" he asked. The woman nodded once. "Please." For a long moment, Daniel stood frozen. His mind told him this was impossible. An alien woman here at his door answering a cook job ad, yet his heart told him something else. She was desperate. She was running from something, and she had chosen his house, his ad, for a reason. The baby's faint glowing eyes blinked up at him. Daniel felt a strange warmth spread through his chest. He stepped aside. "Come in." The woman walked in quietly, her cloak brushing against the floor. The baby clung to her, staring around the house with wide, glowing eyes. Daniel closed the door behind them, though he could not shake the feeling that unseen eyes were still outside in the darkness. The kitchen light flickered as they entered. Daniel turned it on again, trying to steady his nerves. "What is your name?" he asked. The woman hesitated. "Name is Lyra." She pointed to the baby in her arms. "This, my son, Kale." Daniel nodded slowly. Lyra, Kale. Names from another world, he thought. He gestured toward the table. "You can sit." Lyra moved carefully, sitting with her baby close. She looked around the small kitchen, her glowing eyes reflecting the weak yellow light. For a moment, silence filled the room. Daniel sat across from her, unsure of what to say. Finally, Lyra spoke. "You need food. I cook. But you must not ask too much. We only stay, if safe." Her words carried a weight that made Daniel's stomach twist. He leaned forward. "Safe from what?" She looked at him, her eyes darkening, her arms tightening around her child. "Hunters." The clock on the wall ticked louder, filling the silence that followed. Daniel's mind raced. Hunters. What kind of hunters? Why would anyone hunt her or her child? He wanted to ask more, but Lyra stood suddenly. She walked to the kitchen counter, set her baby gently on a chair, and began looking at the small jars and ingredients Daniel had left scattered around. She picked up salt, sniffed it, and nodded. She picked up flour, tilted her head, and then smiled faintly. Daniel watched, still in shock. A silver-skinned alien woman, in his kitchen, checking his cooking supplies. It felt unreal, and yet, it was happening. The baby cooed softly, his tiny hands glowing faint blue light as he reached for the air. Daniel leaned back in his chair, his heart racing. He had wanted a cook. Instead, something far greater had arrived at his door. And outside, hidden in the shadows, something was still watching. The night grew colder outside, but inside Daniel's kitchen, the air felt strangely warm. Lyra stood at the counter, moving slowly, touching the jars and pans as if she had never seen them before. Her silver skin caught the faint light, making her look almost unreal. Daniel sat at the table, his hands clasped tight, trying to keep calm. His heart still beat fast from the shock. He wanted to ask many questions, too many, but the fear in her glowing eyes stopped him. The baby Kyle let out a soft sound from the chair where he sat wrapped in cloth. It was not a normal baby cry. It was soft and musical, as if a bell had rung inside the room. Daniel's breath caught in his throat. He whispered, He glows." Lyra turned, her long cloak brushing against the floor. She pulled the baby back into her arms and looked at Daniel sharply. "No one must know," she said in her broken English. "No one." Her voice was low, serious, and filled with warning. Daniel nodded quickly. "I won't tell anyone," he said, though his voice shook. For a moment, silence stretched between them. Then Lyra sat down again, holding her child close. Her eyes softened as she looked at the baby, then back at Daniel. "You man alone?" she asked. Daniel shifted uncomfortably. "Yes, just me. No family. No one here." Lyra studied him for a long moment. Her glowing eyes seemed to pierce through him, as if she wanted to know if his words were true. Then she nodded slowly. "Good," she whispered. "Alone is safe." Daniel rubbed his hands together nervously. Why did you come here? Why answer my ad? You could have gone anywhere." Lyra shook her head. "Not anywhere. Many places. Dangerous. Many eyes. But your words?" She pointed to the small screen of his phone lying on the table. "Simple. Honest. Looking for cook. Room and meals included." She paused, then added softly, "Room. Home. We need home." Her voice trembled slightly at the last word. Daniel looked at her closely. Beneath the strange silver glow of her skin, beneath the alien features, she looked tired. More than tired. Exhausted. As if she had been running for a very long time. The baby shifted, and his small glowing fingers touched Lyra's face. She closed her eyes for a second, breathing deeply, then kissed his tiny hand. Daniel felt something stir inside him. Fear, yes. Confusion, yes. But also something else. A strange pull, a sense that he could not push these two away. Still, his mind demanded answers. "You said hunters," he said carefully. "What do they want?" Lyra's eyes darkened. She held the baby tighter, her silver skin almost shimmering under the kitchen light. "They want him." She looked down at Cale. "He is rare, different, power inside. They want take him, use him." Her voice grew hard, angry. "I not let them." Daniel's stomach twisted. He looked again at the baby, glowing faintly, smiling as if he knew nothing of danger. A child, yet carrying something powerful enough that strangers would hunt him across the stars. "Who are these hunters?" Daniel asked. Lyra shook her head. "Not tell now. Too soon. Only this. You must not open door at night. You must not speak to others about us. If they find, we die. You too." The weight of her words settled heavy in Daniel's chest. He glanced at the door, remembering the shifting shadows he thought he had seen outside. His throat felt dry. Suddenly, the baby let out a loud cry. This time the sound was sharper, like a ringing note that shook the glasses on the shelf. The light bulb above them flickered wildly. Daniel jumped to his feet. "What? What is happening?" Lyra whispered quickly, rocking the baby in her arms. "He feels danger, he knows." "Danger? From what?" Daniel's voice cracked. Her glowing eyes darted to the window. She stood slowly, holding Kyle close. For the first time, Daniel saw fear spread across her face. "They are near." Daniel's heart skipped. He rushed to the window and pulled the curtain slightly aside. The street looked empty, silent, and dark, but he could not shake the feeling of being watched. Lyra hissed softly. "Close it, no light." He obeyed quickly, pulling the curtain shut. The house felt smaller now, trapped under the weight of something unseen. For several minutes, no one spoke. Lyra rocked her baby, whispering soft words in a language Daniel did not understand. Slowly, Cale's glow dimmed, and his cries softened into quiet breaths. Daniel sat again, his hands shaking. "If they're after you, why risk coming here?" he asked. Lyra looked at him, her eyes tired but steady. "Because human heart, sometimes kind, I hoped." Her words struck him deeper than he expected. He wanted to deny it, to say he wasn't brave or kind, just an ordinary man. But the truth was clear. He had let them in. And now, whether he liked it or not, he was part of their secret. The clock ticked past 1 in the morning. The town outside slept. Inside, Daniel and Lyra sat across from each other in silence. Two strangers, worlds apart, bound by one decision. Finally, Daniel spoke. His voice was soft but firm. "You can stay, both of you. But I need to know, if they come, what do we do?" Lyra's lips curved into a faint, sad smile. "Then, we fight." Her glowing eyes held his, and Daniel felt the weight of those words press into his soul. He had asked for a cook. Instead, he had opened his door to a secret war, and somewhere, out in the darkness, unseen eyes still watched. The next morning, Daniel woke up to the smell of something unfamiliar. It was sharp, yet sweet, a smell that reminded him of spices he had never tasted before. He sat up in bed, confused. For years, his mornings had been filled with nothing more than the bitter scent of instant coffee and burnt toast. This was different. He followed the smell down the stairs. The kitchen, once quiet and lifeless, now buzzed with soft movement. Lyra stood at the counter, her cloak folded neatly over a chair. In the morning light, her silver skin seemed softer, less strange, though still glowing faintly in places. Her hands moved quickly, carefully, mixing powders, liquids, and small pieces of vegetables that Daniel did not even remember buying. On the stove, a pan hissed as she stirred something bright green. Steam rose into the air, carrying that strange smell across the room. Daniel rubbed his eyes. "What are you making?" Lyra looked up. For a second, her glowing blue eyes softened, almost like a smile. Food. Real food. Daniel stepped closer, staring at the pan. That's not from my fridge. She shook her head. No, my bag. She pointed to a small black satchel resting on the counter. It looked too small to carry much, yet Daniel had seen her pull out several jars, herbs, and packets since she arrived. He frowned. I didn't see you carrying that much last night. Lyra only said, It is enough. The baby, Cale, sat on a chair nearby, wrapped in soft cloth. His glowing eyes followed her every movement. Each time she dropped an herb into the pan, the baby cooed softly as if approving. Once, when she sprinkled a silver powder into the mix, Cale let out a tiny laugh. The light in his eyes grew brighter, and for a moment the whole room glowed, faintly blue. Daniel stepped back, startled. He reacts to food? Lyra nodded. He feels it. He knows what is safe. Daniel didn't know what to say. He leaned against the wall, watching as she moved with surprising grace, her hands steady, her eyes fixed on her work. There was a rhythm to her cooking, almost like a ritual. Minutes later, she placed a steaming plate in front of him. The food looked strange. Green sauce over soft, glowing bread that pulsed faintly, like it was alive. Daniel raised an eyebrow. You expect me to eat this? Lyra's expression hardened. Yes, you eat. You live. The words made him hesitate. He stared at the plate, then slowly picked up a fork. The first bite felt warm, strange, but when the taste hit his tongue, his eyes widened. It was rich, full, alive with flavor he had never known. Sweet, then salty, then something beyond both. He swallowed and laughed nervously. This is incredible, better than anything I've ever had. Lyra said nothing, only nodded as she continued feeding Cale a small portion. The baby's glow brightened, and his tiny hands clapped together. For the first time in years, Daniel felt his kitchen come alive. But the moment did not last. As Daniel ate, a sudden creak echoed outside the window. His fork froze in his hand. He glanced at Lyra, but she kept feeding her child, though her body stiffened, her ears twitching slightly. Daniel stood and moved to the window. Carefully, he pulled the curtain aside. The street was empty. No cars, no people, just the pale morning, light stretching across cracked pavement. But near the edge of the trees, he thought he saw a shadow move. Too fast, too low to be an animal. He let the curtain fall back. His stomach twisted, the taste of food still fresh on his tongue. They're watching, aren't they? He whispered. Lyra looked at him for a long moment, then said softly, Always. Daniel sat again, trying to calm his nerves. So what now? We can't just eat breakfast and pretend nothing is wrong. Lyra's hands tightened around Cale. Her voice grew firm. We live as normal. We stay quiet. We not show fear. If we act like prey, they come faster. Her words chilled him. She spoke not like a guest, but like someone who had survived many hunts. Daniel stared at the glowing bread still on his plate. Normal, he repeated, though the word felt empty. Later that afternoon, Lyra cleaned the kitchen with precise care. Every knife, every pan was placed neatly back. Daniel had never seen his home look this alive. Yet behind it all, the silence outside grew heavier, pressing against the windows. At one point, Cale began to cry. The sound was sharper than before, vibrating the glasses in the cupboard. Daniel rushed over, worried the neighbors would hear. Lyra shook her head. No neighbors close, but his cry, dangerous. It carries. Daniel frowned. Carries? How far? Lyra did not answer. Instead, she held Cale close and whispered in her own language. Slowly, the child calmed, his glow dimming. To a soft flicker, Daniel watched, his mind racing. This was no ordinary baby. This was something beyond him, beyond Earth. And if the hunters were real, they would never stop. That night, as Daniel sat in his chair, he replayed the day in his mind. The strange food, the glowing child, the shadow outside. He thought of his old life, quiet, boring, empty, and compared it to now. He had asked for a cook. Instead, his kitchen had become the center of something much bigger, something dangerous. As he drifted toward sleep, Lyra's earlier words echoed in his mind. If we act like prey, they come faster. Daniel's eyes opened suddenly. In the distance, past the silent trees, a faint red light flickered. Watching, waiting. The hunters were closer than ever. The night was heavy with silence. Daniel sat in his chair, staring at the faint red glow he had seen beyond the trees. The kitchen was quiet now. The plates were clean, the stove was cold, and the strange smell of alien food had faded into the walls. But the weight of questions pressed on his mind. He could not sleep. He needed answers. Lyra sat across the room, rocking Kale in her arms. The baby's glow had dimmed to a soft blue, like the fading light of a candle. His breathing was calm, but his tiny hands twitched in his sleep, glowing, faint pulses that made Daniel uneasy. At last, he broke the silence. I need to know. Who are these hunters you keep talking about? Lyra's eyes lifted. For a moment, she did not speak. The kitchen clock ticked louder, filling the gap between them. Finally, she said, They are not men, not like you. They are collectors. Collectors? Daniel frowned. She nodded slowly. They take what is rare, what is powerful. They take for money, for war, for control. My son. She looked down at Kale, her voice tightening. He is target, born with light inside, born with voice that shakes walls. They want to use him, make him weapon. Daniel's chest tightened. He looked at the baby, so small, so innocent. The idea that anyone would see him as a weapon made Daniel's stomach twist. And you? He asked. Who are you really? Lyra's face hardened. I am mother. That is enough. Her tone ended the question, but Daniel pressed on. If they're as dangerous as you say, why risk coming here? Why risk Earth? She hesitated. Earth is quiet, small. Many stars ignore it. I thought it safe. I hoped. Her words sank into Daniel's mind like cold stones. Earth, quiet, forgotten, was nothing more than a hiding place to her. Yet even here, danger had followed. Daniel leaned forward, his voice low. Last night, I saw something in the trees. Was that them? Lyra's eyes sharpened. Yes, scouts. They watch before strike. His blood ran cold. Then they already know where you are? She nodded once, slow and steady. Yes, but they wait. They test first. They want to see if we are weak. Daniel shook his head. And if they decide you're weak? Her gaze locked onto his. Then they come. The words hit him harder than he expected. He rubbed his face with both hands. He had asked for a cook, not a war. Yet here he was, sitting across from an alien mother and her glowing child, talking about hunters who might strike at any moment. Kyle stirred, letting out a soft cry. The lights above them flickered. Lyra whispered something in her own language, rocking him gently. The glow around the baby calmed, but Daniel felt the weight of the moment. You said he has power, Daniel said quietly. What kind of power? Lyra hesitated. She looked at her child, then back at Daniel. Her eyes glowed brighter, as if measuring his trust. Finally, she stood and carried Kyle closer. She set him gently on the table, still wrapped in his cloth. Watch, she whispered. Kyle blinked awake, his small glowing eyes fixed on Daniel. The baby giggled softly, then raised a tiny hand. The air shimmered above his palm. A faint ripple spread through the room, like invisible water moving through space. The clock on the wall stopped ticking. The glass of water beside Daniel's chair trembled, then cracked. Daniel jumped back, his heart racing. What did he just do? Lyra's voice was calm, but her eyes were fierce. He bends sound. He bends light. He is not normal, child. He is rare. Only one. Daniel stared at the baby, his mouth dry. A baby that could bend reality itself. No wonder hunters wanted him. No wonder Lyra ran. Does he even know what he's doing? Daniel whispered. No, Lyra said softly. He is too young. Power uncontrolled. That is why they want him. Easier to shape, easier to use. Daniel's chest tightened again. He had seen greed before, in business, in people fighting over money. But this was different. This was power no human had ever seen, and if the wrong hands took it, the world itself could suffer. He looked at Lyra. Why tell me this? Why trust me? Her gaze softened slightly. Because now you are part. You let us in. You eat our food. You saw his light. No way back now. If they come, they kill you too. Better you know truth. Her words stung, but they were honest. Daniel had already crossed the line when he opened his door last night. For a long time, no one spoke. Kyle giggled softly, reaching out toward Daniel with glowing fingers. For reasons he could not explain, Daniel reached back. When their hands touched, a faint warmth spread through him, calm and steady. Lyra watched carefully. He likes you. Daniel swallowed hard. And the hunters? Her voice grew dark again. They will not stop. They never stop. They will come when we least expect. You must be ready. Me? Daniel said, startled. I'm no fighter. I'm just a man who needed a cook. Lyra's eyes glowed brighter, almost sharp. Then learn. Because if you do nothing, they take him. And when they take him, world will burn. Outside, the wind picked up. The trees swayed. Daniel glanced toward the window but did not dare open the curtain. The shadows felt heavier now, the silence sharper. He looked back at Lyra and Kyle. His life had changed forever in just one night. The secret was revealed, and the hunters were getting closer. The night was still when it began. The air outside carried no sound, no owls, no crickets, not even the wind. The silence was so deep that Daniel woke from his half-sleep in the armchair, his skin prickling with unease. He looked toward the kitchen. Lyra sat there rocking Kale, whispering in her strange language. The baby's glow was faint, like a star struggling to stay alive. But his tiny hands twitched, and Daniel noticed the air around him shimmer. Lyra looked up suddenly, her eyes sharp. They are here. Daniel's stomach dropped. He stood quickly. How do you know? Kale whimpered, and at the same time a sound drifted through the night. A low hum, mechanical and deep, like metal grinding against metal. It grew louder, closer. Then the knock came. Bang, bang, bang. Not like a human knock. Too heavy, too forceful. Each strike rattled the door on its hinges. Daniel froze. His heart hammered in his chest. Lyra stood, her cloak falling around her like armor. She pressed Kale against her chest and whispered, "Stay behind me." The pounding on the door grew louder. Then a voice came through, cold, metallic, not human at all. "Give the child. No harm if you obey." Daniel felt his knees weaken. The voice echoed inside his skull like a machine speaking directly to his mind. Lyra's eyes glowed fiercely. "They lie," she hissed. "Always lie." The door shook under another strike. Splinters cracked. Daniel grabbed the nearest thing, a heavy iron pan from the counter. His hands trembled, but he held it tight. "Pan?" Lyra glanced at him with disbelief. "It's all I've got," he muttered. The final blow came. The door burst inward, wood shattering across the floor. 3 figures stepped inside. They were tall, armored from head to toe in black metal. Their helmets were smooth, faceless, glowing with red slits where eyes should be. Their movements were too precise, too sharp, like machines guided by unseen strings. One raised a weapon that hummed with energy. The red glow lit the room. "Give the child," the lead figure said again, voice cold and inhuman. Daniel's grip on the pan tightened. His body screamed at him to run, but something inside refused to move. Lyra stepped forward instead. Her free hand glowed with blue light, pulsing brighter with each second. "No," she said, her voice like steel. The room exploded into chaos. The first hunter fired. A bolt of red energy shot across the kitchen. Lyra raised her glowing hand, and the blast bent in midair, slamming into the wall instead. The tiles shattered. Kyle cried out. The sound was piercing, ringing like 1,000 bells at once. The hunters staggered as the cry rippled through the room, shaking the windows. Daniel dropped to his knees, covering his ears. Even through the pain, he saw Lyra move. Her hand shot forward, sending a wave of blue energy across the floor. The first hunter crashed against the wall, armor sparking. The second raised its weapon toward her back. Daniel's chest tightened. He didn't think, he just moved. With a shout, he swung the iron pan as hard as he could. It smashed against the hunter's helmet with a loud clang. Sparks flew. The hunter stumbled, and Daniel hit again, adrenaline drowning out his fear. The third hunter grabbed Daniel's arm and threw him aside. He crashed into the counter, pain ripping through his back. The pan clattered to the floor. Lyra shouted something, in her language. Her hand glowed brighter, and the third hunter froze in place as if invisible chains bound its limbs. But holding them drained her. Daniel saw the sweat on her face, the trembling in her legs. Kyle screamed again, his glow bursting. Bright blue? The air rippled, the glasses on the shelves shattered, and the hunter's weapons flickered with sparks. The first hunter staggered back to its feet. Its faceless mask turned toward Daniel. Slowly, it raised its weapon again, this time aimed directly at him. Daniel's blood turned cold. He couldn't move, couldn't breathe. Then Kale's glow exploded. A wave of blue light blasted outward, knocking every hunter across the room. Their armor sparked, their helmets cracked, and the red slits in their visors flickered. The walls shook, the clock flew off its hook, and the kitchen light shattered in a burst of glass. Daniel shielded his eyes. When the light faded, the three hunters were on the ground, struggling to rise. Lyra's face was pale, but her eyes burned with fire. She looked at Daniel. "We must go, now." Daniel gasped for air, clutching the counter for balance. "Go? Where? This is my house." "No more," she said firmly. "Not safe. They know now. They all know." As if to prove her words, the lead hunter hissed through its broken mask. "We will follow, always." Lyra's glow flared again. She raised her hand and blasted the creature back into the wall. The sound of cracking metal filled the air. She turned to Daniel, her cloak swirling. "Take what you need. Nothing more." "We run before dawn." Daniel stood frozen, staring at the wrecked kitchen, the glowing baby, and the broken armored figures. His quiet life was gone, burnt to ashes in one night. He had asked for a cook. Instead, he had invited a war into his home, and the war had finally begun. The kitchen was a ruin. Smoke curled from the shattered walls, broken glass glittered on the floor, and faint red sparks flickered from the fallen hunters. Daniel stood in the middle of it all, chest heaving, his iron pan bent out of shape in his trembling hand. Lyra moved quickly, pulling her cloak tighter around Kyle. The baby's glow dimmed, but his soft cries still shook the air like hidden thunder. She whispered words in her own tongue, rocking him, but her eyes kept darting toward the window. "They will return," she said sharply. "More will come. This place is dead." Daniel swallowed, his throat dry. He looked around at his home, his old chair, the photos on the wall, the quiet life he had built here. Everything he knew was inside these walls. Everything safe, familiar, and now it was broken. "This is my home," he said hoarsely. Lyra's gaze cut through him. "Not anymore. If you stay, you die." He staggered back, leaning against the counter. His mind screamed for sense. He had lived alone for years, working quietly, keeping his world simple. No danger, no war, no aliens. And yet, here he was. He looked at Kyle, glowing faintly in Lyra's arms. small, innocent, yet his cry had torn the hunters apart. His glow had lit the entire house. Power, yes, but still, just a baby. Daniel pressed a hand to his face. Why me? Why my ad? Why my door? Lyra's voice softened, but her eyes stayed fierce. Because you opened it. You chose. Many would shut door. Many would call others. But you let us in. Her words stabbed deeper than he expected. It was true. He could have turned her away that first night. But he hadn't. He had let her step inside. He had given her food. He had touched Cale's tiny hand. And now, there was no undoing it. Daniel's chest tightened. If I go with you, they'll come after me too. Yes, Lyra said simply. They already will. He laughed bitterly. Then what choice do I have? Her eyes locked onto his. Choice is this. You run with us, or you stay behind. If you stay, they kill you fast. If you run, you may die slower. But maybe you fight. Maybe you live. The weight of her words filled the room. Daniel stared at the broken door, where cold air blew inside. Somewhere out there, more of those faceless hunters were waiting, watching. He looked at her. And what happens if they take Cale? Her arms tightened around her son. Her voice shook, though her eyes blazed. If they take him, whole worlds suffer. His power, used as weapon, can break planets, silence skies. They will not stop with us. They will spread, and Earth will burn too. Daniel felt the air leave his lungs. He thought of his quiet town, his empty house, his boring life. All of it could vanish because of this one child. He gripped the counter until his knuckles turned white. Why me? He whispered again. Lyra stepped closer, her silver skin gleaming faintly in the broken light. Because you are human. And humans always surprise. You are weak, but you are stubborn. And stubborn may save us. For a long time, Daniel said nothing. His chest rose and fell with shaky breaths. Kyle reached out, his glowing fingers stretching toward him. Slowly, without thinking, Daniel held out his own hand. Tiny warmth touched his skin, filling him with something steady, something stronger than fear. The baby giggled softly, and for the first time since the attack, Daniel's lips curved into a weak smile. He looked at Lyra. If I go with you, I'm not just running, I'm fighting too. I won't let them take him. Her eyes softened, a rare glimmer of relief crossing her face. Then you choose. Daniel nodded. I choose. The sound of crunching gravel outside broke the moment. Heavy steps moved closer. Red lights flickered beyond the broken doorway. Daniel grabbed his old backpack from the corner and stuffed in what he could. Bottled water, a flashlight, some bread, the photo of his parents from the wall. His hands shook, but he moved fast. Lyra adjusted her cloak, securing Cale against her chest. The baby's glow pulsed brighter as if he felt the danger approaching. Daniel slung the backpack over his shoulders and grabbed the bent iron pan again. It looked ridiculous, but it was all he had. Lyra raised an eyebrow. Pan again? He forced a grin. It worked once. Her lips almost twitched into a smile, but her eyes stayed hard. Outside, shadows shifted. The hum of machines grew louder. Daniel's pulse hammered, but for the first time he did not think about staying safe. He thought about Cale, about Lyra, about what would happen if he did nothing. He looked at the broken door, then back at them. We move now? Lyra nodded. Yes, before they surround. Together they stepped into the cold night. The ruined house stood behind them, smoke curling into the sky. Ahead the trees stretched dark and endless, hiding danger in every shadow. Daniel tightened his grip on the pan, his jaw set. He had chosen. There was no going back. For the first time in years his life had meaning, and for the first time, he was ready to fight for it. The forest was dark. Daniel stumbled across roots and stones, his breath sharp in the cold air. Lyra moved ahead, her cloak brushing the leaves. Kale pressed close against her chest. The baby's faint glow was the only light pulsing like a lantern in the night. Behind them, the ruined house lay silent, but Daniel knew it would not stay that way. The hunters would return. More would come. "How far do we go?" he whispered. Lyra's voice was steady, though low. "Far from town, deep forest, harder for them to track." Daniel frowned. "They already tracked you here. Won't they follow us anywhere?" Her eyes glowed in the shadows. "Yes, but moving makes them work harder, slows them, buys time." Daniel nodded, though unease twisted his stomach. He was no soldier. He was just a man with a broken pan and a heavy backpack, but now every step took him deeper into a fight he could not walk away from. Hours passed. The forest grew thicker, the trees closing in like watchful guards. Daniel's legs ached, but he forced himself onward. The night carried strange sounds. Rustling, leaves, snapping twigs, but he could never tell if it was animals or something else. At last, they stopped near a rocky clearing. The moonlight cut through the branches, painting silver lines across the ground. Lyra set Kale down gently, wrapping him in layers of cloth. The baby's glow softened, his small hands twitching as he drifted toward sleep. Daniel dropped his bag with a sigh. His body burned with exhaustion, but his mind was restless. "This can't last," he said quietly. "We can't just keep running." Lyra's eyes lifted. "Then what do you suggest?" He hesitated. "We fight." She studied him for a long time, her glowing gaze piercing through the shadows. "You are one man, weak, untrained. What can you do against them?" Daniel clenched his fists. "Maybe I can't win, but maybe I can surprise them. Hunters expect power. They expect weapons. They don't expect me." Lyra tilted her head, almost curious. "Human stubborn," she whispered. "Always strange." The silence stretched between them until Kyle stirred, letting out a faint cry. Daniel knelt beside him, placing a gentle hand on the baby's cloth. The warmth spread through him again, calm and steady, like the pulse of something greater. He looked at Lyra. "You said he likes me. Maybe that means something. Maybe I'm supposed to help him." Her lips pressed into a thin line. "Maybe. Or maybe you die first." Daniel smirked faintly. "Maybe both." Suddenly a faint hum drifted through the forest. Daniel froze. The sound grew louder, mechanical, sharp. Lyra grabbed Kale, eyes flashing. "They found us." Red lights flickered between the trees. Shadows moved closer, fast and precise. Daniel's heart pounded. "Run?" he asked. Lyra shook her head. No time, they surround. The hunters emerged from the shadows, taller than before, their armor gleaming under the moon. At least 5 this time, maybe more. Their weapons glowed red, humming with deadly power. The lead hunter's voice cut through the night. "Give the child. This is your final chance." Daniel stepped forward before he even realized it. His hands shook, but his voice was steady. "No." The hunters turned their faceless masks toward him. For a moment, silence filled the clearing. Then the first weapon fired. Lyra raised her hand, deflecting the bolt with a burst of blue light. The ground shook. Daniel rushed forward, swinging his bent pan at the nearest hunter. Sparks flew as metal met armor. The hunter staggered, but another grabbed him by the collar and threw him against a tree. Pain shot through his body, but he forced himself back up. Kale cried, his glow bursting brighter. The air rippled, shaking the trees, bending branches. The hunter stumbled as the sound rang through the forest. Daniel staggered forward again. "You want him?" he shouted. "You'll have to go through me." He grabbed a fallen branch, heavy and rough, and swung it like a club. It cracked against a hunter's helmet, denting the faceless mask. Sparks shot out. The hunters pressed in closer. Lyra blasted them back, her hands glowing like fire, but sweat streamed down her face. She was weakening. Daniel's lungs burned. His arms ached, but he refused to stop. Then it happened. Kale's glow erupted, brighter than ever before. A wave of blue light swept across the clearing, stronger than anything Daniel had seen. The hunters' weapons flickered, their armor cracked, and several dropped to the ground, but Kale's cry did not stop. The sound tore through the forest, shaking rocks, splitting trees. Even Daniel fell to his knees, his head pounding. "Too strong," Lyra shouted, clutching the child. "He cannot control." Daniel forced himself forward. He placed his hands on Kyle's small, glowing body. "It's okay," he whispered. "You're safe. We're here." The warmth spread through, him again, calming the storm. Slowly, Kale's cries softened. The glow dimmed. The forest fell silent once more. The surviving hunters staggered back, their armor sparking, their red eyes flickering. The leader's voice rasped, "Human, you interfere, but you cannot stop what is coming." Then, in a burst of red light, they vanished into the trees, retreating but not gone. Daniel collapsed onto the ground, gasping for breath. His body ached, his vision swam, but he was alive. Lyra knelt beside him. Kyle clutched close. "You fought," she said softly. Daniel gave a weak laugh. Didn't have a choice. Her eyes lingered on him. "No. You chose. That is human way." The night grew quiet again. But Daniel knew it was not over. The hunters would return, stronger, smarter. He looked at Kale, whose glowing eyes stared back at him with strange innocence. A baby, yet carrying power that could change everything. Daniel whispered almost to himself, "Maybe humans can matter after all." Lyra's voice was low, thoughtful. "Maybe. This is why we came." Far away, deep in the forest, a red signal flared into the sky. A hunter's voice echoed through hidden channels. "We found them. Prepare the others." The chase continues.